what? What? I'm shooting a video right now. It's about iOS versus Android debates because I find those crap. What? Could you stop yelling in my ear? I'm on the phone with you. Okay, first of all, I don't give a crap about your reasons for why you like Android the best versus iOS. Because first of all, those reasons don't make sense. Therefore, you don't have an open mind. Oh yeah? Wait till you see what I have to say to my What Do I Think video. Alright, I'm gonna end this call right now. Yeah, don't call me back. Android fanboys always say iOS is terrible, Android's the best, or iOS fanboys, they'll be like, Android sucks, iOS is the best. This fanboy thing needs to stop, because these iOS versus Android debates, they are terrible. Welcome to another episode of What Do I Think? Let's begin. Alright, so what is iOS? The operating systems that are running on the iPhone, the iPod Touch, as well as the iPad. Now, what is Android? It's an operating system that are running on smartphones where this operating system is created by Google, and I can't tell you what specific devices they're going with, but they're on smartphones, they're on tablets, as well as media players right now, thanks to Samsung with the Samsung Galaxy Player. So Android is pretty much an open platform, so any company out there besides Apple, or except Apple, can make Android devices, whereas Apple, they control everything, so they're pretty much just one company that's making one operating system for the mobile market out there. So iOS, Apple controls everything, and then Android right here, I don't have an Android phone, so that's why you see my hand empty. Android phones, they're an open platform, so no software is required to sync your music, movies, and photos. Software is required on iOS, and that is iTunes. Now, some people may not like iTunes because you might have syncing issues, which I have syncing issues in the past before, so everybody gets them, and don't tell me you do not get them. If you haven't gotten them yet, you will get one soon. Maybe later, maybe in the future, maybe 5 years later, you'll get an issue. Whereas Android, you just plug it up to your computer, you drag stuff into your device, whether it's internal storage or micro SD, and then that's how your stuff gets on an Android phone. And an Android phone, you can pretty much do whatever you want. You know, you have more customization, whereas iOS, you know, the operating system is pretty stale. You know, it's kind of boring a little bit. Even though iOS 5, you got the notification center and all this mumbo jumbo stuff, iOS kind of looks stale. I mean, I am using the iPhone 3G right now running 4.2.1 because I can't update it any further from 4.2.1. And as you can see, this operating system is pretty stale. You know, all you got is a row of icons, and if you have an iOS 5 device, you'll have the background wallpaper, and then you double tap, you have a multitasking bar, or which is basically app switching. However, in Android, you actually have true multitasking, and some people like the multitasking better on Android, some people like the multitasking better on iOS. So depending on how you're going to choose your operating system on a daily basis, it's going to have to come from personal preference. Me personally, I probably want a mix of both, because I remember I used to be like, I want to be an open platform. And then when I play with the iPhone, the iPod Touch, and the iPad, now sometimes I might want to go like, okay, have Apple control me. Or, no, not today, I want to be in control on my own. And Android phones aren't the only ones that can do that. You know, it could be other electronics that can do that as well, such as regular MP3 players or the PSP. But we are talking strictly iOS and Android right here. Now, because Apple controls their iOS operating system, they pretty much do whatever they want. Okay, they're going to add this feature to the new iPhone. They're going to add this feature to the new iPhone. Apple doesn't care if they're out of the game, because you got some Android phones where companies will just constantly produce more Android phones in a week or two or a month or two, and it has this, 4G LTE, 4G HSPA Plus, or Bluetooth 3.0, you know, whereas the iPhone, we don't even have 4G yet. We have it on the new iPad, the 3rd generation iPad, or the iPad 3, whichever one you want to refer it to, iPad 2012, whatever. But the iPhone hasn't gotten 4G LTE yet, ever since the iPhone 4S. And that was a big letdown to everybody. But me personally, I wasn't surprised by that, because I knew Apple was going to do this. I mean, they did the same thing for the 1st generation iPhone when 3G was around. And then they didn't add 3G until the 2nd generation iPhone, the iPhone 3G. Now, because that Apple controls the iOS operating system, they pretty much, you know, send out updates to fix any bugs on here. Whereas Android, it would take, I don't know, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, because the manufacturers can't have their phones be compatible with the new update. You know, Ice Cream Sandwich is currently out. You know, the day this video is being recorded as on April 24, 2012 on a Tuesday. And not every phone out there has Ice Cream Sandwich yet. Not even the Samsung Galaxy Note. Or the, I don't know what other phone out there. The reason why I mentioned the Galaxy Note is because that's one of my favorite Android phones that I would want to get if I ever do want to get an Android phone. And when it was launched, Ice Cream Sandwich was around at the time, but it only has 2.3 gingerbread. Okay, now first of all, because the Android is an open platform and Google let all manufacturers, you know, produce Android phones, I don't find this surprising, and here's why. Because when you're running an operating system and you want to make it an open platform, you have to understand the consequences for this. You know, not all the manufacturers will be able to keep up with the updates. They're going to take constantly more time in order to have those updates pushed out for the older devices, because the problem is that, like, the manufacturers, they can produce Android phones, but they're all spec'd differently. One can be better than the other. Some of them are actually better than the Galaxy Nexus, the Nexus S, and especially the HTC Nexus 1. The 3 Google phones that were produced directly when Google were working with HTC on the Nexus 1, and then they switched to Samsung for the Nexus S and the Galaxy Nexus. And so people complaining that you can't get an update right away with Android, I really think that nobody should be complaining about that and saying that Android sucks because, you know, they don't constantly keep up with their updates. Now, this is coming from an iOS user. This is coming from a user who hasn't even played with Android. I never owned an Android phone in my life. I heard about it, but I never even played with an Android phone before. The only time I play with an Android phone is when I'm swiping in the... I did that the very first time when I was in Best Buy, touching the Nexus S, and the phone felt great. And me personally, I'm a tech geek, and I want to play with Android phones as well, because I may love iOS, however, I want to get into, like, another platform so I can increase my knowledge in technology, you know, with iOS, Android, and Windows Phone. And I'm on iOS right now, and now I want to try out Android, and after I try out Android, I want to try out Windows Phone. And the top 3 phones that I would like if I wanted to get an Android phone is the Samsung Galaxy Nexus, the Samsung Galaxy Note, love that 5.3-inch screen, as well as the HTC One X, not the US version, but the unlocked version, due to the fact it has a quad-core processor, whereas the US, you only get a dual-core processor, which I don't understand why, but that's due to the cellular network. They can't support quad-core. And another thing I don't like about when people are complaining about iOS is that Apple controls the software. They control everything. Now, that may be a problem to some people, but most of the people, they don't mind it because it just makes their lives easier. But people are like, you can't do this, you can't do that. Hey, when a company controls their operating system, you have to expect that. When a company doesn't, and it's pretty much an open operating system that's free, then you can do all that. However, you have to be concerned about all the consequences, such as the operating system. It could lag a little bit. For example, the Galaxy Nexus, I heard that it had constant reboots. Now, I thought it was just the phone itself, but it turns out it's an OS issue, because I asked someone who uses an Android phone. It was a Samsung something, I don't know what it was, Droid Charge or something, I'm not sure, but yeah, he said that his phone constantly reboots too. So every Android phone is gonna constantly reboot, because Android, it does have some bugs, and it does have some OS issues that needs to be assured. But the problem is that companies, as I said before, they keep constantly releasing phones, and they not concerned about how long they should upgrade the newer device. And when they upgrade a new device, all you get is new features. You don't get like a big design change. You don't get like a big spec upgrade, like Apple. You do with some Android phones, but not all of them. Like, for example, one phone, it could be like, okay, they changed from plastic to glass. That's not enough upgrade. Come on. If they did that in a month. Especially the Droid Razr. I mean, when the Droid Razr was out, the phone was fantastic. And now you got the Droid Razr Max, and I'm not sure when that was released. I think that was like 3 months after. I don't know. 4 or 5. I'm not sure. You guys can correct me on that in the comments below. And the first Droid Razr is still great. So there's no point in upgrading to the Droid Razr Max if they haven't put an ice cream sandwich on it first. So in my opinion, when you guys make these debates about iOS versus Android, iOS, Apple controls everything, Android, Google basically lets it go. Don't do comparisons like that, because those are unfair, and they're not fair to both operating systems, and I don't feel this is a fair battle between the two. So what do you guys think? You guys can comment down below on what you think. I think that both operating systems are capable of some things, and there are some things you won't be able to do with iOS that you can do with Android. For example, you can get emulators. Over here, you can't unless you were to jailbreak. And both operating systems, you're not going to be able to do everything you want, because you have the jailbreaking process on iOS, and you have the rooting process on Android phones. It depends on what you're looking for, and that's where you decide whether you need to hack your phone or not in order to get those features. Anyway, guys, if you want to stay updated on what's going on with me when I post a new video, why I haven't posted a new video, why am I busy, why am I not busy, why do I keep talking and I keep rambling and rambling, follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/benicellguy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't yet. You have a good day now.